Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Steve Guiette. I'm, as she said, with Aludyne. I'm the Group Senior Manager for Continuous Improvement for the Americas. I've been with Aludyne now for a little over 3 years, but I have been using Shibumi for a little over 4 years. And kind of a funny story with Shibumi, how it was introduced to me was the former employer I was with, Shiloh Industries, we had hired a outside consulting firm to come in and work with us, and they introduced us to Shibumi. Well, when they first introduced it to us, they kind of handed it to us, and then COVID hit. And it was literally dropped on my lap and said, here you go, enjoy this system. So I started playing around with it, and I'm kind of going through, checking things out, creating a few projects here and there, and I went to delete what I thought was a project and wiped out the entire system. I lost $27 million in one click. I freaked out. So I instantly hop online. I start searching for Shibumi. What's the first thing that pops up when you Google Shibumi? Shibumi shades. So I'm like, I don't think shades are gonna quite help me get $27 million back. So what I did, scrolled down, found a software company in Royal Oak, called them up, all freaking out. They said, hey, we can help you, no problem. We'll have somebody get a hold of you within the next 5-10 minutes. About 10 minutes later, I get a call from John Doctor, my savior. He's like, yeah, took a look. I can restore it for you, no problem. At what point in time do you want to go back to? I'm like, right when I deleted it. Okay, done, no problem. So he was able to pull it back up. So that's kind of my introduction to Shibumi. Hopefully, as you guys are integrating better, you will have more tutelage, have more support. Feel free to reach out to me if you need help. I'm always willing to help anybody so they don't make the same mistakes I did. So talk about Aludyne. We are the #1 aluminum knuckle manufacturer in the world. We have 30 strategic locations across 9 different countries. And we unique 24/7 capabilities allows us to custom design, engineer in as little as 1 day. So Aludyne is formerly known as Chasix. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Chasix or Aludyne, but we also work with aluminum, magnesium. We do some of the dashboards and stuff for the BMW and Daimler vehicles, but we mostly do a lot of knuckles and transmission housings. So key aspects of our partnership with Shibumi is 3 years. Is the TV down here not working? Or is it up there? Never mind. So 3-year relationship, 5 years former Shiloh Industry cast light plants. For somebody, I know there's a couple people from Shiloh in here, correct? I thought? Oh, might be in the other one? Okay. So we utilize it at 22 of our manufacturing plants and our corporate support locations. We currently have 242 users. We're going to be adding probably another 20 or 30 within the next couple of weeks. And support and training has allowed us to be predominantly self-sustaining. So, there are some issues that we have where we'll get a hold of like Austin or John to help us out, but they have taught us so much that we're able to build a lot of what we want on our own. So our current solutions, we do cost savings tracking and reporting, $43 million average savings goal divided over 3 work functions. And those work functions are divided between operations, purchasing, and our engineering teams. Over 800 current active projects. We have 40 unique, 40 or a little over 40 unique dashboards and reports, and we benchmark savings ideas and improvements to cascade to other plants. We just launched our key performance indicators tracking and reporting. We launched that at the beginning of this month. We're seeing pretty good success with it. And that allows us to track all of our KPIs by plant, department, and product line. We compare and contrast with similar plants. That way it helps us identify improvement opportunities and potential cost savings opportunities. And we're currently in developing a employee suggestion system that we're going to be launching in June. It's going to allow our company employees to submit both cost savings and general improvement suggestions. Right now, they're able to submit cost savings, but not the improvement ideas. So we're rolling that out as well. And our improvement sessions will be tracked separately from our cost savings, so we're not having too much data in one area. And then we're going to be providing rewards, feedback, and stuff for the suggestions. So our solutions integrations, we're currently working with Shibumi to integrate into our Plex system so we can pull data directly through the API out of Plex and auto-populate right into Shibumi to save a lot of manual time, a lot of manual data entry. And one of our future solutions is we're going to be working on surplus equipment. Now that Shibumi has the ability to add pictures and images, we want to take pictures of all of our surplus equipment. That way we will reflect what condition. We can make sure we get all the right information in there and how the item looks. So our cost savings tracking and reporting. Now a little of this may look familiar for those that were here last year. I stole some of my own slides, so some of this may be a little bit of a rehash, but our solution at Aludyne is set up in basically a hierarchy. To meet our yearly costs, our plants must support and identify opportunities to basically hit 3% of sales goals or reduction in controllable costs. So all of our entries begin as cost savings projects, initiatives. Each project rolls up towards the plant goal. Plants roll up towards the regional goals, and then all the regions roll up to our global goals. All the projects have a total target that is divided over a 12-month period, so all of our cost savings projects have a 12-month lifespan, whether or not they start in January to December or they start in June to June. And then each month, actual savings is recording based upon working hours, volumes, et cetera. So our stages for all of our projects is basically unidentified as any new idea that comes in that we need to build up the information on and really start working on it. As we gather the details, but we're not 100% committed to it, we'll move it to our identified stage. Once we have fully committed to the project, we move it into booked. That means we're locked in. We're going to be adding it into our budgeting process. And then once we actually implement the project or the project starts seeing actual savings is when we will put it in the implemented phase. And then not to lose sight of all of our projects, after the 12-month savings have been achieved, we move it to completed. It'll archive it in the system, but we can still refer to it back to it for benchmarking purposes or sharing best practices among the plants. So as I said, we have our 3 different work functions. So our corporate purchasing department spears up a lot of projects when it comes to like metal purchasing, things like that, that applies to all the plants. So we'll have large dollar projects in from them. Engineering VAVE, we have them participate when we look at any project content or start to look at basically the bill of materials. We'll get engineering involved. And then operations, these are suggestions and ideas that came up at the plant level. So everything within our system aligns to our P&L categories. So we work closely with finance to make sure that each of the projects we put in, we're able to track how it aligns to the plant's P&L and how everything rolls up from there. So our project entry, most of you guys have seen the QR codes already. We started this about 2 years ago, I believe. We have it translated in all of our various languages for all of our different plants, but this allows anybody within our organization to be able to take that QR code from their phone, wherever, hop right into that, and able to put in a project, a potential cost savings idea for us. And we also have supplied to everybody within our organization the URL link for our Shibumi idea intake form. So our idea intake form is basically what the project name is, who's submitting it, their email, which plant it applies to, what is the current state of the process they're wanting to improve, what is their proposed future state, how do they think it'll save us money, and then they can attach a picture if they want to. That way we can go, what the current state image is, and then afterwards we can add a future state image. We also translated it to each one of our languages, so as employees in other countries can go in, They can select their language, and it'll automatically translate it right to their language for easy understandability as they're trying to upload their idea. So once it has been submitted, we do have people at each of the plant. They're basically our first line of defense, we say. They will get the idea, they will review it, they will go out onto the plant floor or find the person that submitted the idea, begin to talk to them about their idea, and build up more details around it. So as they build up the details, you can see there we have our current state, our future state. We have departments that will assign it to, which work function is responsible for it, shows our fiscal savings, shows who the project owner is and the teams, has our savings categories and our savings subcategories to align to our P&Ls. We have financial information there when it comes to what the current unit is and what we're targeting, unit of measure. And then over there, you can see as we move the projects through, what I said we were working on earlier with the improvement suggestion is that improvement only knows savings. If it is deemed not to be a cost savings idea, they will click that and it'll move it to our separate section within Shibumi that we're building now. So we have our project details on financials. In our financial section, we have basically our actual savings and our targeted savings, which is what we call all-in, which the all-in stands for our pipeline, our booked, and our implemented. So anything that's on the all-in PBI line, that is what we're targeting to save. And then each month, we track what we targeted to save through our actual savings. We also have our project CapEx, expense, and rebates. That goes into helping us calculate out our ROIs on the project. So we see our various CapEx investments, when they were hitting, how much we had to pay, if there was any additional expenses, and then if we got any rebates or discounts back from that project. We also have our milestones, our risks and issues, and our attachments tabs. Here we're able to, as I pointed out in one of the earlier presentations, we have all of our project steps. We can switch that back and forth between a Gantt chart or a list. We have the same with our risk or issues. If there's a risk associated with the project before we launch it or as we're building it up, we want to note that. But then also, we will identify any issues after the project is launched that if we're missing what we targeted to save, we will input the issue why as to why did we miss that savings. And then our attachments, we're able to attach basically all of our relative documentation supporting the project and also explaining out how the savings was calculated. That way we can pull it up and do basically a sanity check on it. So all of our projects roll up to our plant levels, and everything accumulates at the plant level. And you can see we have different graphs based on departments, stages that things are in. You can also see it's divided by the work functions in the center. The work functions have their own specific goals of how much they are to hit each year and help the plant identify. So we want to track each of those. And then all those roll up to the region level. So at the region level, we're able to see all the plants together and how they're performing to their metrics. And then all of the regions roll up to our global level. And at our global level, you can see we have our total, what's in the pipeline, what we have booked, how much we have implemented versus our budgets, and then how much we've actually saved so far at that point in time. And we're also able to switch to the next fiscal year. So if I wanted to look at how much carryover I have or how much I can actually log in for next year and commit to, then that's why we have that. So reporting at the plant level, as I showed you, we have different charts in there, things assigned by work function or things assigned by the stages of the projects. But then we also have our reporting for cost savings cumulative versus our budgets, and then how we're performing each month, month over month. So we're able to see between what we talked about with our actual savings, how much we targeted, and then what we had budgeted to save for that year, or for that month, excuse me. So we have region level dashboards that we break down. This allows us to track by each plant what our budget is. We're able to see how much we have implemented, booked. So a quick high level glance for our executives to be able to go in, see how everything's performing. We do have conditional formatting on some of these reports. Some reports, they don't want it on there, so we've removed it. And then we also have reporting at the global level that we're able to break down our regions. We're able to break it down by the different work groups, the operations, the engineering. So we're able to see what our budgets are, how much we have identified, percentage of that, what we have in the pipeline, booked and implemented. We also have our best projects section. This is basically any of our best practices that we want all the plants to look at. We've created a special report for that. So as new projects are added, they'll get notifications that there's new projects to go in and take a look at. And that'll help stimulate ideas at other plants to where they can implement those same projects. So, well, before I move on to key performance indicators, any questions on the cost savings side?
Circling back to your intake form, how you're intaking multiple languages, is there anything you're doing in the platform to accommodate for that globalization when data comes in potential different language or currencies associated with that?
So the currencies, we have it to where everything's auto, I believe we have it set up to where everything auto calculates right into US dollars, because we track everything globally through US dollars. For the languages, for the most part, what'll happen is if an employee puts it in their native language, the person at the plant will go through and retranslate it back over to English. But that is one of the features that I did want to talk about this week is, how could we do an auto translation or something like that if that's eventually available through Shibumi. Okay, key performance indicators. So as I said, we just launched this at the beginning of the month, and we have it divided basically into 3 sections. We have our KPI report. This is where everything kind of rolls up from the system. We have our actuals input and our targets input. So our actuals input, they're gonna update every month. That's where we're actually integrating our Plex system right now too, that it's gonna pull directly information out of Plex and put it in our actuals. Our KPI targets are set basically when we do our budgets at the beginning of the year, what we're targeting for the improvements for those plants, for those KPIs. And then all of that quantifies into the report, which compares the targets to the actuals. Our prior system, once again, Excel-based, and it failed because people would break calculations, break links within the system. So we constantly had errors that we would have to go in, try to identify where it was, fix it, and then re-roll it out. So we decided to go to Shibumi, to where nobody can alter anything because they don't have access to the formulas. So overall, these are our plant KPIs, and I know it looks a little busy right now. As I said, we're still, we just launched it. We're still working on some improvements with it, but it allows us to track all of the measurables that we're looking at each plant, which department is responsible for those, and we're able to show what our targets are that we want to hit for each of those individual KPIs. Then on our actuals, we have it divided between our plant KPIs, which is roll-ups of either specific data, or it could be roll-ups of all of our individual programs and processes. So here you see with the bottom section where the double arrows are, this is tracking just the casting number of shots off of each of our individual casting machines. So all of those will roll up to a plant KPI, which indicates what was our total amount of shots that we had for that plant for that month. So we're able to see how many shots we're processing through, did we hit our targets, are we achieving what we said we were gonna do to our customers. So we got the specific filters on there that we're able to filter by each of the individual KPIs. We're can filter by the part KPIs, which department's responsible, which part or program we want to look at, and the production types. So here you can see I can filter just for the HR, and they're able to go in and input each of their numbers each month. So in the report tab, we're then able to see how they're performing compared to their target, whether or not they're on target, and this is where we use some of the conditional formatting, and then where they're underperforming as well. So if we're not hitting on our OEE, obviously, that's where we want to go and start paying attention. Any questions on the KPIs?
Right here, hold on.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so I have a question. You're tracking your financials monthly. Do you have the capability to do that quarterly or yearly?
Do I have the ability to do it when?
Quarterly or yearly?
Yes. We do have reports built that show breakdown by quarters, breakdown for full years, so we can compare year over year. Okay. So we do have that in there. I just didn't show it. Okay. I think next year when I present, I'll do a live demonstration. That made it a little bit easier. So with what we're launching next month, our employee suggestions. So as I said, we're going to utilize the same idea intake form. That'll take them to our Shibumi idea intake. Once they submit that, it'll actually drop into our main plant project list. And anytime anything's dropped into the main plant project list, our CI manager at the plant will get a notification, hey, a new project has been submitted, let's go check it out. So he'll then go out, work with the operator or whoever put that suggestion in to start to build up on it. If he sees it's not something that's going to be a cost savings project, but it's an improvement we still want to go after because it's going to make the plant cleaner, make it more efficient, whatnot, but not save the money, then they're able to move it by clicking on the improvement only, no savings, which will move it out of the project system and actually take the project details that were already entered and move it into our improvement suggestions tab, and it breaks down with different information, not as deep level as what our other projects were, but it gives us where was it found, which of the 8 wastes is it gonna help improve, what machine was it specifically found at, how can we improve it, and then who submitted it, who's gonna own it. We can add pictures, and if we do determine that the project does contain savings later down the line as we're going through it, we can always move it back to the other system with the simple click of a button. And finally, our Shibumi user training. So when we first set up and built our Shibumi system with Austin and John and stuff, we had a hard time. We were trying to figure out what's the best way to train. And we did multiple different training methods where we hosted group calls. We tried scheduling time, but with the amount of people we had within the company that was using it, found the best way to do it was a PowerPoint presentation. But I basically took every little detail I could of Shibumi and I broke it down how everything interacts and what everything means. So I did an overview of what Shibumi is and how it's structured. I showed them how to, one of the best ways to log on and save the system. We also talked about, in there how to navigate the menu bar. But every little detail we put in Shibumi, we went through the entire system and put into our presentation, and it continually grows as we add more items. So, any questions?
So, sorry, Mike, I just had a question about, first of all, I love that you're getting ideas from everywhere and actually have the QR code, set up around the plants, I'm assuming. But how do you capture, I guess, I'm thinking about the, logical sequence of that, right? Plant employee, submits their idea. How do you keep them engaged when they submit an idea and it may or may not be a good idea? But who is the one who vets those ideas? And I guess, can you walk me through that sequence?
Yeah, so once an idea is submitted, as I mentioned earlier, the plant CI manager, he's the first line of defense at every one of our plants. He'll get a notification that a new idea has been entered. He or somebody on his team will then seek out the person that submitted it, which is why we ask for the submitter's name. They'll go talk to that person one-on-one, and they'll start getting more, they'll start drawing more information out. So as they start building up that project and starting to fill in the details, and when it comes time for the legwork, we engage that employee to participate. So we have them as a part of the solution for their idea. So, and it depends upon the level of what needs to be done. You know, obviously we're not gonna have somebody, working on, robot automation or things like that, but we do want them out there as a part of that process and a part of the planning team and things like that. So we'll pull them off the production floor, bring them into meetings where we're, working on their idea and discussing their idea. So once it is built up, depending upon the value level of the project, if it's under $100,000, once it's ready to move to booked, it has to be approved by our CI managers, our plant controllers, and our plant managers. They have to agree to the savings in there. If it's over $100,000, then it becomes, after they approve it, there's an additional approval process through our executive leadership team where myself, my boss, some of the other vice presidents, we will actually hold a monthly call. We will have the plants with those projects come on and present the project to us to make sure we'll go through every detail in there, make sure that everything's, all the proper milestones are there, how they vetted the project, how they calculated the savings, because we want to ensure those higher dollar ones, everything is 100% perfect. Some of the lower dollar ones, they may not fill in as much detail just so they can get it quick and easy and, just really go after it. But those higher dollar ones, especially ones that need capital investment, those are the ones we really scrutinize and deep dive into. But we do that for both the book stage and we do that for the implemented stage as well. Because we could book something in January and it may not take off until like July. So when they do start seeing the savings and they go to input that, we go through the same approval process to make sure everybody's seeing that same savings before we actually start recording it.
Sorry. So do you ever get into a situation where you would have to do prioritization for those unidentified list of ideas? Because I would assume each plant, keeps submitting, right? So you get ideas from different places. So do you have a prioritization process? Could you,
Yeah, so basically we do kind of feasibility studies on a lot of the projects. I mean, some of them it's a no-brainer, we just go and do it. It's just act on it if it's a simple go and do. But when we talk about the ranking, it's really within each plant, they'll take a look at their list of projects that they have and they tend to focus on literally the ones that get the most prioritization are the ones that have the highest impact. So the higher the dollar savings, the more it's going to be pushed forward. Something that's lower may get put on the back burner if it's tied up with the resources with the higher dollar savings.
all right, one more.
One
You're
more.
coming.
Thought I was off the hook.
You mentioned, a few hundred users or close to it, and you've mentioned, some of the VP's involvement, frontline managers, a lot of different stakeholders and personas essentially, right? So I'm curious to hear, what is that mix today, I guess, roughly, and what do you kind of want it to be, and or what have the challenges been, maybe addressing some of those along the way?
You need more licensing because we have some.
Not the question.
So initially, when we first rolled out Shibumi, just from the cost saving standpoint, we only had 3 people per plant that had a license. And that was the plant CI manager, plant controller, and the plant manager. And we started to find over time that it was becoming difficult where assigning tasks to people, we would actually have to go and follow up with them and enter the data into Shibumi ourselves. So that was one of the cogs that, initially we went, yeah, I think we need more seats. With the balance of, who we brought in and who we've given access to, it's literally now we have it, every functional manager at each plant has access to Shibumi. Now they can assign tasks to their teams, but their teams have to report up to them and they will do the updating within the system. As we get more seats available, then we'll start to add, like their second in commands, their third in command. We don't want to spread it out to everybody because one concern sometimes is too many hands in the cookie jar. So we are being very, very selective on which groups we are letting in. But right now, the split is, I would say, probably 20% corporate VPs, people like myself, and then 80% all plant. So, but yeah, it's the hardest part about it was we literally just rolled out 140 of those users a month ago. So it's been getting them onboarded into the system, getting them used to looking at it. Now that I know, looking at some of the presentations earlier today, I'm going to take back, the personalized landing home screens, things like that I think are going to make it a little easier for everybody.
You showed the KPI capability, which I think we're going to try to kind of streamline that process through integration. And then there's a few other integrations planned. So
6.
can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so currently we're integrating with Plex. So we got 2 main ERP systems we use. We use Plex and we also use XA. And we have a third one that we're actually transitioning out of XA and going to with Ignition. That's allowing us to link directly to all of our machines, pull the data right off the PLCs, and give us that true real-time data. So with those integrations, we're starting with Plex because we have right now 7 plants that use Plex 100%. So we're drawing with them first. We also use a system called GenSuite, which tracks our safety and environmental stuff. So we're going to be doing an integration with them to pull the data out of there for our safety sections. We are going to be integrating our Ignition and XA once we get these other integrations done. And then we're also going to be integrating Paylocity into this so we can draw how many hours are being worked at each workstation. And when it comes to scheduling and our absenteeism, we're able to pull that data directly out of there. So it's going to eliminate a lot of that manual entry and auto-populate stuff that's already being tracked in other systems.
All right. Great questions, everybody. All right, Steve, thank you very much.
I'm off the hook.